Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Darren, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks to those of you that have tuned in for this free webinar on business systemization, being hosted by Michael from Business Design Corp. Just a bit of background on my role. I'm the general manager at First Class Accounts New Zealand, so I work with our licensees, our accountants around the country, and really help them to grow and improve their practices. And I also do business consulting work with small to medium-sized businesses here in New Zealand. I've been doing that for around 12 years and started a relationship with Michael, business relationship with Michael approximately 8 years ago. So business systemization is very important for businesses that want to get some scale, that want to tame the monsters of chaos, that really want to have a business that can operate profitably and independently from the business owner. And the Touchtone system is a fantastic platform for enabling business systemization. In this webinar today, Michael will really take you through how to streamline your business, and I hope you get a lot from it. So back to you, Michael.
I want to thank Darren for hosting this presentation and giving me the opportunity to speak with you. And I thought I would provide you with a quick resume of my background, just to give you some confidence that this topic is one that I have a lot of experience with. My career spans 35 years. I'm 61 years old. I started as a sales manager in my father's company, and then I owned my own company consulting on business development and building out process-dependent businesses. I started and sold a company. I have experienced everything that you are experiencing and more, and I've seen it all in my own business and in our consulting practice. Our company, Business Design Corporation, was started in the early 90s as a consulting company. And in the early days and for many years, we were eMyth consultants. Many of you are probably familiar with Michael Gerber and his eMyth series of business books. They are very popular. But what we found was that we were delivering a fire hose of theory to our clients. Much of it was very good stuff, but our clients were spending tens of thousands of dollars in 12 to 18 months of time, after which they did not have processes documented and implemented. And given that is the very foundation on which the eMyth theory is built, we decided to focus specifically on that, on process implementation. And in 1994, we went to work on a web-based tool called the Touchtone Business System. And we developed into a software company, and we began partnering with alliances like Darren and First Class Business coaches to assist their clients, you, with getting your processes organized and implemented so you can manage and grow with more consistency and more reliability, and be able to train and manage employees with more ease and efficiency. So there are many great books out there on business development. Michael Gerber's eMyth, great one. Gino Wickman's Traction. John Warillo, a Canadian author, Built to Sell. That's one of my favorite, by the way. It's a great book. And Chet Holmes, The Ultimate Sales Machine. These are just a few. There are tons of books out there that talk about the importance and value of having documented procedures, but none of them explain how to get those processes implemented. So that's the topic of today's presentation, is how to systemize your business and streamline those operations. I want to lay out a 5-step plan to assist with getting your processes organized so you can create what we call a process-dependent business. And that's a business that relies on people following processes instead of people just depending upon people. If you follow this plan, you can create consistency and reliability. You can get employees to do well what you need them to do, And as a result, you can create a company that gives you a little more freedom. You can actually grow the company without the stress and overwhelm that is almost always associated with growth. A quick shout out to the importance of having processes, why you need them. Processes give you consistency. They create consistency, and they help employees and management track and achieve goals, to track the results of whatever it is that needs doing, and to be sure that what is being done is actually working. If what is being done is done consistently, then the result of that activity is actually meaningful. Accordingly, if things are being done inconsistently, how can anything really be effectively measured? If you're doing it slightly different every time, you just don't know if what you're doing is actually working. There's no way of really measuring. Michael Gerber writes that every frustration in your business is the result of the lack of a process, that if you had that process available, you would no longer have the frustration. Now, documented procedures will resolve almost any business frustration you have. I mean, that makes sense, right? But while that makes sense, what we find is that even with processes, business owners get frustrated when they can't find the processes they need. And if you can't find them, your employees are not going to use them. And processes come in all sorts of formats. They could be Word documents, PDF files, videos for training, or audios for training. They could be checklists, spreadsheets, PowerPoint presentations, and they get saved on local hard drives. They get saved on intranets and Dropbox folders, on Google Drives, SharePoint applications. It's a mess. They're all over the place. We call it Standard Operating Procedure Chaos, or SOP Chaos for short. And we developed Touchtone, that's the software application that Darren mentioned a moment ago, to make it easier for you to be able to find and implement your processes. If it's easy for employees to find the instructions they need, they can do what they need to do consistently well. And it simplifies the management process. Business owners and managers no longer have to try to figure out how to manage people. They simply need to hold employees accountable to the processes, the instructions the employees need to follow, and the instructions the employees agreed to follow. Now, by the way, this is a key concept. Most managers do not have any management systems. They haven't a clue how to manage. They're mostly just babysitting, making sure projects are getting done. And it doesn't have to be that way. If you train someone on how to do something and they have the instructions to follow, they can find them. Why do you have to keep checking on them and fixing their mistakes? A manager just needs to make sure their reporting employees are following the processes the employee was trained to and agreed to follow. But it always comes down to finding those processes easily. So we focus on making it easier to find what you're looking for. So what if it was easier to find the processes you were looking for? What if every process was linked to a specific position in your company? What if at the click of a button, any one of your employees could access the documented instructions they need to do the job you need them to do? So that's the goal. That's where we want to get to. So how do you start? How do you create a process-dependent business? I want to start with the plan. We've developed a 5-step systems development plan, and we use this systems development plan to discover, prioritize, document, implement, and manage all of the processes in a business. And there are 5 steps. The first step is about defining the processes that you think are necessary in your organization. How do you get new leads? How do you deliver on the promises that you made in the sales process? What back office procedures are going on behind the scenes, like hiring or firing or payroll or invoicing, backing up your computers, all of the administrative and financial activities? How do you guide and manage the business from where you are today to where you want to get to? In this first step, you're not describing how the process is done. That's going to come later. In this first step, you're simply naming what needs to be done. And we're going to go into this in a little more detail. I want to walk you through the 5 steps, and then we'll come back and walk through each of these steps. Step number 2 is to create a graphic picture of what your business looks like organizationally. It's essentially your org chart. Step number 3, once you've named all of the processes, you will connect them to the boxes on your org chart. Think about this. You've identified everything that needs to be done in the business. You've identified all of the positions in the business, and you've connected everything that needs to be done to all of the positions. You've created what we've coined this term, functional accountability. Everything that needs to be done is being done by someone in the business. It is incredibly powerful to get to this step. In step number 4, you're going to train and retrain your employees and get them using your processes. You need to enroll them in this idea of following procedures. You need to make sure they understand why they should do this. What's in it for me is the common thinking of a human being. So what's in it for them? Why is it better to follow processes instead of just winging it day by day? And finally, in step number 5, it's all about keeping them current. If everyone in the company is actually following processes, they begin to notice when things have changed. And then you can ask for their input. How have things changed? What can we do better? And your employees will actually keep your processes current. Now, almost every business owner I speak to will ask me, how long is it going to take you to systemize my business? The first thing I respond to that is that it's important to know that systemizing your business, it's not a project. It in and of itself is a process. And the actual writing of your procedures, it's ongoing. It actually never ends. But that said, in the first 3 steps of the business systems development plan, the first 3 steps of the 5-step plan, you will create the foundation of your process-dependent business. It's systemic infrastructure. And depending on the size and complexity of your business, it really should only take 10 hours at most. So it can happen very quickly. And this is a very, very powerful series of steps to have taken. You'll have a fairly complete list of all of the processes that happen in your business, a blueprint of your business in terms of its operating procedures. You'll have a clear understanding of all of the positions, a blueprint of your business in terms of your employees. And you'll have position-specific operating manuals for every box on your org chart. Everything that has to be done has been assigned to a position, and an employee is filling that position. You'll have created complete functional accountability. You will no longer need to wonder why something didn't happen. And again, it should only take between 6 and 10 hours to get to this step. So the first step then, it's all about naming the processes in your business. And in this step, I want you to think about your business in a new way. I want you to rise above the landscape and think of your business as having 4 key functions. Getting the business, these are all of the sales and marketing processes. Doing the business, all of the processes for delivering on the promise made during the sales procedure. So these would be processes for client fulfillment, customer service, all of the processes that directly relate to what you do for your clients. Running the business, these are all of the processes that are going on behind the scenes, like invoicing, paying your bills, collections, budgeting, things like that. Essentially all of the financial, the administrative, the human resource type processes, the IT processes. And you might say, well, we don't have a human resource department, or we don't have an IT department. And you might not, but you do have IT type processes and human resource type processes. You have hiring processes, onboarding processes, training processes. These are all HR type processes. And you have processes for backing up your computers. Those are examples of IT type processes. So all of those types of processes go under the 3rd key function, running the business. And finally, the 4th key function, these are the strategic processes for leading, managing, and guiding the business from where you are today to where you want to get to. So in the simplest of terms, there are really only 4 core activities that are happening in your business. You've got to get the sales, you've got to deliver on the promise, You've got to collect and pay for the goods and services performed, and you've got to guide and manage things. So this becomes your process database. This is where you will store all of your systems, all categorized in 4 simple key functions. I'm going to toggle over to a Touchtone account. And I do want to say that this presentation is not a demo of Touchtone. If at the end of today's presentation you're interested, I'll give you a link where you can get a real demo of Touchtone. I'm simply using Touchtone to show what is actually available to you. We've been using different types of tools to help companies organize and implement their operating procedures for more than 20 years, and Touchtone is by far and away the best tool available for this need. So in this step of the 5-step plan, we are simply naming and organizing your processes. You are not going to describe how the process is done. You are not writing the process in the step. That's going to come later. You simply want to focus on building out this framework, this infrastructure. And again, your processes, they get organized in these 4 key functions, and these are the 4 key functions I just showed in that slide. Getting, those are going to be the processes for sales and marketing. Doing, processes for delivering on the promise made in the sales process. Running, those are finance, admin, HR, IT type things, and then guiding, strategic and management processes. Within each key function, the processes are organized in categories, what we call sub-functions. So if I come in here and click on getting the business, we actually dig in a little deeper. Now, because we're not focused on one key industry today, like property management companies or HVAC contracting, for example, and sometimes we do presentations for specific industry groups, but because there are all sorts of companies in different industries on the call today, I thought I would start with this key function of getting the business, the sales and marketing processes, because selling sort of starts off the whole business cycle. You got to sell something before you can start delivering on the goods. In this key function, we typically create subcategories that correspond to your selling process, but a lot of times we have to teach people about selling. Selling is both an art and a science. Generally, we recommend categorizing your selling processes into 3 or 4 subcategories. One would be generating leads or advertising, for example. The next would be what you do to qualify and nurture these new interested prospects into converted sales. And then finally, a third would be how do you retain these clients for future opportunities? Now, you can have as few or as many sub-functions in your sales category as you like. This section is completely customizable in Touchtone. This is just what we typically recommend. Now, it's important to note that your staff, your salespeople, for example, they don't actually have to come here to hunt for what they need. When an employee logs into Touchtone, they log into what's called their dashboard. And Touchtone knows who they are and immediately provides them with their position. So in this case, I'm the customer service rep. And they can click on their position, and because Touchtone knows I'm the customer service rep, and all of the processes I need, the ones I've been trained in, are right here. I don't have to be searching for what I need. Everything I need is right here. Now we're going to go into this in a minute, how to link all the processes from the process list to specific positions. But for the moment, just know that it's really easy to find exactly the processes you need to do your job. And if I click on one of these processes, so I'll click on the free month welcome call, for example, you'll see that there is a work plan and 2 scripts. And I can click on the welcome call work plan, and instructions walk me through how to make a welcome call. And they're presented with other links that I'll need. So if I make a call and I actually hit a voicemail, I can click here and it takes me right to the voicemail script, and I can leave that voicemail. If I click through and actually reach the client I'm trying to reach, I can click this script, and this becomes the script that that I can use or follow. Now, a quick word about scripts. These are not meant to be read on the telephone. These are used for training and role playing. But it's great to give your team some things that they can fall back on. So that's why these are here. And if we're walking through the process and through that script, and the client actually schedules the orientation meeting, we can click here and it goes to an entirely new process altogether that helps us understand how to add this client to our CRM application and book their orientation call. So step by step, Touchtone will walk you through these processes, and because I'm the customer service rep, everything I need is right here. So let's go back to where we are getting the processes set up. I'm going to come back to the 4 key functions. And I can click on any of the 4 key functions from the dashboard, by the way. If I go to the 4 key functions, I can click getting the business, for example, and I will go right back to where I was. Or I can go to guiding the business. So I can go to pretty much anywhere I need to go. So let's click on guiding the business. And here are where the processes would reside for strategy and management. So these 4 key functions, by the way, are here to help you think about all of the processes that you have in your business in a very structured framework. In this step, then, we're naming our processes. We're going to get to writing them in a later step, but now it's really important to create that foundation or structure that I spoke of. I'll give you an example. I was working with a client and I asked him, what did he do to get new business? And he went into this long response. You know, we analyze our database, we get a list of clients, we do this, we do that, and then we export them, and we do. And I stopped him and I said, my question was, what do you do to get new business? Not how do you do it. So if what you are describing to me were a process, what would the name of that process be? He thought about this for a moment and he said, you know, retargeting past clients. So we clicked on getting the business, because this is really a sales process. And we clicked on add new process. And we typed in here, if I could spell, retargeting past clients. And I clicked save. And then I said, what else do you do? And he said, well, we do Facebook advertising. I said, great, Facebook advertising. So we typed in Facebook advertising. What else do you do? Well, we do LinkedIn. We mine for prospects on LinkedIn. We do trade shows. We do Pinterest. We do email marketing. We do blogging. And as he named his processes, we started writing them down and organizing them in these different functions. And once I got his advertising processes down, I said, well, after you've done your advertising and you've got a lead, now what do you do? And he says, well, we do a first appointment call to qualify them. And then what we do is we do a site visit, and then we do a proposal, we do an estimate, and then we do, and step by step, we walk through all of the different steps towards actually getting a client. And we then went to each of his 4 key functions, and we identified all of his processes. It's really easy to do this. It takes a couple of hours. Now, when you're just starting out, when you create a new Touchtone account, these key functions are blank. And the idea is it's a great opportunity for you to start thinking about your business. But once you've done that, you've probably only thought of about, maybe 60% of your processes. So we have a set of libraries for you. So you can click on any one of these key functions. And if you put your cursor up here, add from process library, you can actually select the general process library, and you can come down here and select new employee onboarding and click save. I've already downloaded it. That's why it's grayed out. I can't download it again. I've already got it. And it will take that process and it will put it into your Touchtone account so that you can now edit it. And some of these are really, really great processes. For example, there's a work plan for new employee preparation, you know, what you need to do, sending out emails to the people in your company to let them know that this person's starting. There's a great little onboarding checklist. Do you have your W-4s? Have you got an I-9? Have you got an email account set up for them? There's a little policy on onboarding. There's a work plan for the first day of training. It's just really helpful to have these instructions, and many of the processes in the library are already documented. We've been doing this for more than 20 years, so you can simply download them and edit them. So as you can see with the libraries, it's actually quite easy and doesn't take a very long time to flesh out your process list. Okay, so at this point, you have a fairly good list of your processes. Now is when you're going to want to create this graphic picture of what your business will look like organizationally. Who's going to be helping you with selling? Will you need someone to do social media? Will you need someone to help you with your website? How many salespeople do you need? How many back office support people do you need? If you've already done this, then this is a super fast, quick step, but now is the time to get your org chart current. Many of you on the call today probably have an org chart. Question is, when was the last time you looked at it? Is it current? And how do you actually use it? See, most org charts, they're done following an assignment that was given to you, the business owner, by a consultant, and then it's filed away. It is rare that we see an entrepreneur actually using their org chart in the day-to-day, month-to-month development of their business. So how can you use your org chart? Well, obviously your org chart will help you define all of the roles and positions in your organization and who they report to. But what if your org chart could help you determine who you need to hire next, how much you can afford to pay them, how quickly you need to achieve a return on your investment in them, what is expected of them, how they'll be able to achieve what is expected of them. What if your org chart could show you who does what in your organization so you can be sure that everything that needs to be done is being done by someone in your company? Your org chart has incredible value. It's not just an exercise. On the contrary, it's a strategic growth tool. In Touchtone, we give you a sample organization chart. It's basically a generic org chart, and you will edit this org chart to illustrate your own business. And it's very simple. You can add positions, you can delete positions, you can edit the names of any positions simply by clicking on them, highlighting the text, putting in whatever you want, clicking save, and that new position name will be there. And then you can move positions around. Everything in Touchtone is drag and drop. If you can, we recommend building the org chart of your future business, say 3 to 5 years from now. You'll find that it will be fairly similar to the business you have now. You'll just have more people. And where you might have one person in more than one position now, so several of you on the call today said that you were 1 to 3 employees. Well, you're in this position, you're in this position, you're in this position, you're in this position, and you're probably in this position. And you might have one other person who's in this position, this position, this position, and this position, and this position. Well, then this is still a representation of your company. It's just that 2 or 3 people are filling 9 or 10 roles. And your job is to build out these roles so that when you get out of this role, you have a set of processes to give someone so that you can go from out of this role into this role, train this person on all of these processes, and that way this person knows exactly what to do. So creating the organizational structure of your future vision, turns your organization chart into a strategic growth tool. You actually start using your org chart for the planning and growth of your business. In step 3, you're going to start linking the processes that you've named in your 4 key functions to the specific boxes or positions on your organizational chart that you created in step 2. The point is to make it ridiculously easy for anyone in your company to find what they need. They click on their position, they get a list of everything that you need them to do. they no longer need to hunt for their processes. They're all in one place. In Touchtone, it's very simple to do this. You can do this by clicking on any of the positions on the org chart, and then you can choose to add existing process, and then you'll get a list of all of the different processes that are in here that you can add to that specific position. But typically when you're first getting started, we recommend going back to your functions list, starting at the beginning, which I typically say is sales, getting the business, and moving through each process, selecting it, and coming up here and saying link to job description. And when you select this, this brings up your organization chart, and you can, the one that you created in the previous step, and you can select one or more positions who need access to this. So maybe the lead generator does the Facebook advertising, and then you just click back and you go to the next process, the upgrade campaign. Who does that? You click link to job description, and step by step you walk through all of your processes and link them to specific positions on your organization chart. And processes can be linked to multiple positions if, say, the lead generator and the outside salesperson needs that process. And that's all there is to it. You go through each of the processes, you link them to the positions on your org chart that are responsible for following and who are accountable for those objectives of those processes. And once all of your processes have been linked to the org chart, you'll have a position-specific operating manual for every one of these positions on your org chart. So you'll have something like this. These are the, say, 16, 18 different processes that a customer service rep needs to be following. You have complete functional accountability. You've identified everything that has to happen in your business, and you've assigned it to positions on your org chart. Now, remember, this view contains exactly the same view, the same content as the view that we're seeing in the control panel. When I go back to the dashboard and I click on this position, these are all of those processes. All I've done here is that as a user, I can customize them in groups to help me organize my processes. So whereas on the organization chart, I've just got a list of all of these processes, on the dashboard, I can get it all into groups. And this is customized by users. And it's mobile compliant, so users can access and follow instructions. They complete checklists or fill in forms on a mobile device if you need them to do that. Okay. Just a quick word about job descriptions. I'm calling them position-specific operating manuals, but really they're job descriptions. But most of the job descriptions that we see are usually only used for hiring purposes. Now, once the position is hired, the job description gets filed away until a new employee needs to be hired for that position. And then, you know, the entrepreneur finds the old job description because they need to hire a new person, and they look at it, they determine whether or not it's accurate, they make the changes, they hire the person, they chuck it in a drawer. What you're seeing here is the typical job description that we see. This is actually a job description from one of our clients. They were using this job description before they became a client of ours. And as you can see, it is sort of a description of the job, but it's really nothing more than an advertisement, really. It's a hiring document. It's a job description that is really just used for external purposes. What if a job description was really a position-specific operating manual? A list of all of the processes and expectations that someone hired for that position was expected to follow. Something used not only to hire someone, but used to train them, to manage them, to evaluate them. So this type of a job description is used for internal purposes. And because it's used to evaluate the employee, both the employee filling the position and the manager of that employee tend to keep their eyes on it. And so it stays current. And when these tools are actually used in the week-to-week management and the day-to-day operation of the business, they tend to stay current organically. It's really easy to keep them up to date. In step number 4, you're going to start implementing your processes. And you can do this as soon as you've written one or two processes. You don't want to wait until every procedure is written before you start introducing this idea of following processes to your staff. Jump right into it. Implementation is all about a clear and accurate picture of what an employee in that position needs to be doing, what I need to teach them, what I need to follow up with them about, what I use to manage their results. All of it is depicted in their job description. And what is good about a Touchtone job description is that it makes it very tangible. Management can be a very difficult thing when you're trying to manage people who have not had much training, when they are essentially making it up as they go along, or they have learned by watching someone else. And it's not really fair to criticize the employee when the manager has not been held accountable to showing them how to succeed in a tangible way, as opposed to just, I told you how to do this. The job description fills that purpose in management. And there are two types of trainings. There is new employment training for the brand new employee, and then there's ongoing training. And the job description is key for both of those management purposes. I'm going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to click on John Smith. So let's assume I'm the manager of marketing and sales, and I gave myself two positions, but let's say that I'm the manager of marketing and sales, and I manage all the customer service reps. I'm going to actually click on John Smith, and this is going to open up John's job description. For new employees, for new employee training, the job description can be used as a checklist for tracking their training and making sure that they're trained in everything necessary for them to be able to do their job the way you need it done. So for example, if I have tracking and converting free month sales, I can click on this, and I would be doing this with John. So let's assume that you're John, and John could be a virtual employee in the Philippines, or John could be sitting beside me right now on the computer. And I'm going to click on this process, and I'm going to click on the work plans, and I'm going to walk him through each step. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Do you have any questions, John? Does this all make sense to you? Step by step, we walk through. And he says, yep, I got it. And I'm going to click trained, and I'm going to click save. And if I want to put some notes in here about my training process, I could do that. Then I'm going to come back to this process, and you'll notice that it just put a check mark beside this. Now we have a series of scripts here. So I'm going to walk him through these scripts, and we're going to role play them together. And I'm going to click trained, save, and then go back to the next script and click trained, saved. And when I'm done everything, I'm going to click train all. The beauty of this is now when I go back to the CSR position, I'm tracking that I've trained him in all of these different things. And step by step, I will walk through one process at a time and train them on how to do that work. Now, it all sounds simple, right? It's beautiful when it works this way. That said, there are probably always going to be instances when maybe a process hasn't been documented, or you might say that, well, I just did that yesterday. I'm not going to be bothered doing it again. So it's not really a process, or things like that. And if your mind's going there, let go of those variables and focus on what is consistent. Because the majority of what all employees do, whether you believe it or not, is rudimentary and consistent. Some of it is more complicated than others based on the work they do and the industry you're in, but the majority of it is always consistent. As a manager, I'm going to look at the job description for the new employee who's coming into this position, and I'm going to start considering how long is it taking me to train them in each of these processes. So one process might take 20 minutes. Another process might take a couple of hours. And when I add up all that training time and multiply it by what I pay someone for filling that position, and then I add in my management and training time, I now have a really good sense of what it's going to cost the company to hire a new employee for that position. And I'm going to know how long it's going to take to get that employee up to speed, which is a really important thing to know. If you go back to the organizational chart and you're considering who you're going to hire next and you're growing your company, you need to know this information. If you can tell me exactly how long it's going to take me to hire this new employee and how much money it's going to cost me, you've just unlocked the puzzle between sales and operations. This is often the chicken and the egg issue. If you get a lot of new sales and you don't have the operational staff to be able to handle it, you're going to get a bunch of upset clients. And if you have a lot of operational staff but not enough sales, well, you're not going to be very profitability. You're not going to be very profitable. The job description is key to this. Additionally, with new employee training, if I've hired someone and I've made a mistake, and I'm just going to be able to spot it much sooner. I'm walking them through a step-by-step training of every single process. And if I hired someone last year and I know it should only take 40 hours to train them in all of these processes, and I have a person that I'm currently training, and they're just not getting it after 25 or 30 hours, I can cut my losses with this new employee early, and I'm going to save a lot of money. There's some astonishing statistics out there by consultants who have studied this situation, and it's incredibly costly to hire the wrong employee. And according to Brad Smart, he wrote a great book called Top Grading. 75% of the time, companies are failing at their hiring process. That means 3 out of 4 new employees is a mishire. So I can save the company a lot of money. And honestly, I can save the new employee a lot of frustration and a lot of time by letting them go if they're not getting it. They simply are not going to be able to succeed at this job. So the job description can help you gauge whether or not you've got the right person for the position. This makes it tangible. A quick conversation about ongoing training. If I have a problem with an employee, you can always refer back to their job description. If you have someone in a position and they're not achieving the expectations that you have for them, or they're not doing as well as other employees in the same position, you can go back to the job description. You can look at the processes that they're failing at. You can discuss how they're using it. You can discuss if they're actually following it. You can have a conversation about the process. Is the process not working? Or maybe is it simply not working for them? So you can hear the tone of my voice. It's no longer about what's wrong with you. I've told you 5 times to do it this way. Why do you never listen to me? Why are you insubordinate? Why? That the blame game goes away. Using the job description takes the energy out of the equation. It's no longer personal. It's a conversation about the process. It takes all the emotion and angst out of managing. In fact, it makes managing super easy. You simply have to hold employees accountable to the processes that they agree to follow. It's no longer about blaming. The tone of management completely changes. And the job description, it helps with communication. If the employee is asking me a lot of questions, I can refer them back to their job description. If they're clocking in their hours incorrectly, I can refer them back to that process. I can ask them to reread the process and let me know where they're going wrong with it. I don't have to retrain them. If they need access to information, I can tell them to go look in Touchtone for it. The documentation's all there. If they have a question, chances are it's in the process. You know it's there because you wrote the process. So you direct them back to where the content is stored. And they don't have to go hunting for it. All the content is linked to their position. So the minute a manager changes their tone and makes the employee accountable to what they're responsible for, and it's done in a very tangible way on the job description, for example, the employee begins to learn something new and it redirects the whole business in a different direction. It takes time to get there and it takes time for the employees to get used to it, but it's completely worth it in the end. Okay, we're coming into the final stretches here. At this point, you're starting to get your processes implemented. Now you want to get more input from your employees. We call this process innovation. If your staff is using their job description and they're following their processes, they can keep your processes current organically. They'll start letting you know which processes need to be changed. There's a process in the Touchtone library. Let's go to 4 key functions, guiding the business. Add from process library. It's the one-on-one meeting process. right here. So I can grab that and click save, and this will download that process into my Touchtone account. Using this process, a manager meets with their reporting employees on an ongoing basis. Could be once a week, it could be twice a month. At the very minimum, it shouldn't be less than once a month. Most managers, they micromanage their employees' projects. There's very little structure. They ask about stuff when they think of it or when something bad happens. The one-on-one meeting is an opportunity to truly manage people. It's a management process. The meeting's not only used to check in on projects, it's used to minimize these got-a-minute meetings. You know, when an employee comes in and says, hey, Mike, you got a minute? These meetings never last a minute. They're almost always an interruption, and they are incredibly inefficient in terms of time management. If an employee knows that he or she is going to be meeting with me tomorrow or 2 days from now, because we have a regularly scheduled one-on-one meeting, they can hold their question. They can hold that issue until then, unless, of course, it's an emergency or it's urgent. So the one-on-one meeting is a time for a manager to have a reporting employee do a process evaluation or a review. I can actually have a form where we've got an agenda, we've got past items to work on, we've picked specific things, processes on their job description to review, just on an ongoing basis. It's not something that you would do every time you meet, but on an ongoing basis, maybe once a month or a couple of times a quarter, you can actually ask the employees to review a process and get their input. You know, what could we do better? Getting your people to contribute to the efficiencies of your business, helping you innovate your processes, it not only builds buy-in and a better understanding of the value of the processes, but your employees really feel heard. It's really quite remarkable. So how do you get all of these processes written? It's a valid question. Now, as you've seen, we've got libraries. We've got the general process library. We've had 20 years of experience helping Systemize businesses as master certified eMyth consultants. We've delivered the eMyth mastery program to hundreds of companies just like you. And we've collected operational procedures from that work, and we make them available to you in the general process library. We're also in discussion with Darren to create a first-class business account library for all of their members. When one of you creates a process, say a vacation request process, for example, and you're interested and willing to share it, it can be copied into the members process library, and we'll let all of Darren's subscribers know it's there to download into their account, edit, and implement. And more, we're always developing content, and Darren has some great processes that we can add to your members library. And again, as these processes are written, we'll let you know all about them. Another great method that's worked well with our clients is to create a monthly workshop. A manager or you might pick a process on a job description, speak to the employee or the employees who use that process. Could be one, could be several. Ask them over the next couple of weeks to think about how they do that process. They can think about things like the steps they take, what they do, the materials they use, the things they say, things like that. Have them consider this for a week and ask them to pay attention to what it is that they do with the intention of getting the process written up. And then on a specific date and time, you get together and collaborate to get it documented and innovated, and you share your information. And you know, it could be a lunch and learn, something like that. And another way is during training. Have the new employee write down what you're telling them, because you've got a process. It's just in your head. When you're training them, have them write it down. Then give them some time during the day to write up their notes, and then review and edit what they wrote the following day. So think of how well trained they're going to be. You're telling them how to do what you need them to do, and you can be sure that they're paying attention because they know that they're responsible for documenting what you're telling them, what they're learning. Then they're going to go through this process of writing it up, taking their notes and actually writing the process up, and then you're going to review it with them the following day. It is a great process of getting your systems written. Okay, so to wrap up, the focus of today's presentation was on the 5-step plan. Remember this, we walked through this process. I've used the Touchtone business system as a tool to help you walk through the 5-step plan if you choose to do it. Now, you could do this using some of your existing tools like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. And I say might because I've seen many a company who comes to us after trying with Google Docs or SharePoint or Word. Almost always what they've developed is disorganized and out of control. It's a mess. It's what I referred to earlier as SOP Chaos. And they've come looking for a tool to help them get those processes organized and implemented. Touchtone is designed to make it easier to craft your business to be a process-dependent business instead of a people-dependent business. It's designed to make it easier to train and manage your employees, to give them an easier way to find the instructions they need so you don't have to be telling them over and over and over again. It gives managers a way to manage reporting employees to the processes that each employee has been trained on. Once they've been trained, there's really no excuse. If an employee forgets what they're supposed to do, they can just quickly access what they need with not much more than the click of a button. I mean, you just simply can access the process you need instead of having to hunt for it. Now, this is the offer that we're willing to make. Touchtone is a subscription. It's $149 US on a month-to-month basis. There are no support fees. There are no setup fees. You can cancel your subscription at any time and offload any of your content to Microsoft Word files. You'll never be handcuffed to Touchtone. And we've created a couple of offers. The first offer I was trying to do was how you could get Touchtone in New Zealand dollars. I wanted to sell it to you for $149, 149 New Zealand dollars instead of US dollars. But Darren and I could just not figure out a way to do that. So what I did is, and you should check your email, you should have received an email that has a link to it. And the first 10 companies who are on the call today, if you click that link, I can't sell it to you in New Zealand dollars, but I did it even better. I went from $149 to $99. It's completely risk-free. If you're not 100% satisfied, you can cancel your account during your first 30 days, and we'll give you a full refund. In addition to that, we're going to give you an orientation meeting to familiarize you with the product. We'll actually take a couple of job descriptions and processes and help you migrate them into your account. You'll have full access to the libraries. It's a really great offer. In addition to that, Darren is offering a complimentary business systems review consultation. He's going to walk you through step-by-step, helping you understand what processes you have now, what processes are missing, to give you a better understanding of the scope of the project that would be ahead of you. This brings us to the end. We sort of run out of time for questions. Let me just see if I have any questions. Darren, well, first of all, let me say that if you have questions, you can contact me here, or you can contact Darren. Send us your questions, and I'll email you in response. Darren, do you want to come back to us? And you'll probably have to take yourself off of mute. And you want to wrap us up?
Sure, Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, I just want to thank you, Michael, for your time on the presentation today. It's always, I've been through it several times now. It's always good to go through it again. It always can seem complex looking at a new platform or a new way of doing things, looking at things. But it's actually, Touchtone is actually a fantastic and simple system once you get your head around it initially. And the 5-step business systemization process is something that any business owner can take and use to start systemizing their business. I'd like to thank those of you who've tuned into the presentation today. If you are a small business owner, you probably find that you're wearing all of the hats in your organization chart. and it can be a bit bewildering with where to start in terms of systemization. If you are going to grow the business, then the best thing to do is really to build that organization chart, build that structure, and start identifying the processes that fit underneath each of those hats. And as your businesses starts to grow, as you're hiring people, it's just going to be much more easier for you to scale and get that growth through a process dependent business, rather than a business that has all of the processes and procedures stored up in your head, and that can be stressful. It's the type of thing that wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's hard to get scale through people, and difficult to train people when everything's in your head. So the 5 steps are a great way to start getting that out, and the Touchtone platform is a fantastic platform it gives you a real good structure to systemize your business. If you've got any questions on those 5 steps or Touchtone, then please get in contact with me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got, and also happy to speak to you and have a chat about what systems you do have in your business, what your systems gap is, and how we can potentially help you overcome that gap. So again, thanks for tuning into the presentation, and thanks again, Michael.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. And again, also thank you to everybody who attended today. I really appreciate it. And please let us know if there's anything we can do to support you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.